Today we talk about the three, for me, top critical things, do's and don'ts in your first, let's say 1 to 4, 5 weeks of your new endeavor. In every company, actually in any environment where a number of people are working together, there are different approaches, opinions, agendas, networks, etc. And we will talk extensively about company politics and how to navigate that at a later stage. Now we come to the third critical advice. This last one might surprise you, but it's critically important. Welcome everyone to episode 5 of the podcast, The Mammoth in the Room. I'm Nicolas, CEO of Mammoth Leadership Sciences. Now, last time we spoke about the first and only time you have the opportunity to make the first impression on team level, when you meet your team on an aggregate level. Be assured, whatever happened in that meeting, and hopefully it was a good one, chatter about you with you not really noticing is already in full swing. This is what he, she said. Can you imagine how he, she thinks about this or that? Believe it or not, this is what he, she, the spouse, the kids are doing in the free time, whatever. What you might also notice is that when you walk the hallways, that people might take a look at you a little bit longer, nuanced. Some will say hello. And all of that is not a surprise because you are the new kid in town, the new leader, and word is spreading fast. I mean, fast. Preconceptions, opinions, perceptions are forming. And people you have never met have already opinions about you. They're talking about you. What you said, what you did not say, how you said things in your first meeting with the team. Some, hopefully, might stop you and kindly introduce themselves. And here are already some opportunities for building up your reputation or threats to your reputation if you get it wrong. So today we talk about the three, for me, top critical things, do's and don'ts in your first, let's say 1 to 4, 5 weeks of your new endeavor. First, every interaction counts. What this means is that obviously opinions are forming no matter if you speak to folks or not. So better to speak to people and learn. I often say this, there is no way to not communicate. For example, when someone stops you in the hallway and introduces him or herself, then be approachable and interested and listen. If you say you have no time and can't talk, you're also communicating. And what you're saying is that you're not interested, that you don't have time for that person. When you are on the way to something else and you're stopped, but you really don't have time, say something along the lines of, okay, let's meet later, or offer an opportunity to meet at a coffee machine later, or you ask your administrative help to set something up, get something on the books. When you do speak, listen carefully, because very often these interactions with folks who maybe don't belong to your direct team will tell you a lot about what's going on in your new department, in your company, where the problems are, what things are really running very well. They might tell you things that, your direct reports might not want to tell you, at least not at the beginning. Also, use the opportunity to roam, knock on doors, introduce yourself, introduce you to other departments, functions, managers, peers, leaders, no matter where they are in the corporate hierarchy. Everything about you travels fast, and because this happens, no matter if you like it or not, you want some strategic say and steer in that. You got to look at it from that perspective. So independently, if right or wrong, imagine the difference of two situations. If the word after, let's say, 1 to 2 weeks spread like this. 1, he, she is approachable, kind, interested, seems calm, quite a cool guy. Versus the guy seems rushed, only focused on business, doesn't seem to care about the people, quite hectic, not approachable. I'm smiling because when I say this, I was once in a situation where I was new in a leadership position, and because I was so overwhelmed, I tried to control, see, manage everything. I had coworkers needing to tell me to slow down because people were freaking out because I seemed to freak out. While I wasn't talking to anyone, folks started to worry. What's wrong? That's a great example of how not to do it. It happened to me, it happened too long ago, but I learned from it. Don't let people freak out just because you are freaking out. This first week or 2 weeks is also the time when you reach out to your direct reports to set up the first individual meetings. And we will talk about that separately, but just so you know, don't send an email saying, set this up or meet me in my office. No, you set it up and you meet your direct reports in this first individual encounter on their turf, their office, their region. And of course, this might mean you need to travel. Always remember, every interaction counts. You are building a reputation. The next critical thing is have your story neat and tidy. Because you will have the opportunity to meet many people, you will have plenty of occasions to also present yourself in these interactions. For that, it's important to keep in mind that you are already speaking to your brand. And I'm not speaking here so much about your personal story, because this will be consistent when you tell people about your family, hobbies, education. The pitfall comes in situations when you speak with folks about your role, your focus, your attention, your perspective. If you want to communicate vision, be sure you have it tight and clear, and make sure it stays the same across your interactions. It might be too early still, but if you already have identified some critical success factors or strategic imperatives, also make sure they are clear and they are in an order. They might have already been communicated at a town hall, at a bigger meeting. And if that's the case, make sure you know them. You want to show up consistent, because besides the personal stuff you will exchange, folks will want to know how you want to approach the role from business perspective. People included, of course. And because these employees will, of course, also talk to each other about these interactions, it's important what you share is simple, it's short, it's easy to remember, it's clear, it's consistent. More is less. Trust me on this. You don't want to come up with a vision stated in an inconsistent way and then 3 critical success factors and 4 strategic imperatives, which all come depending on the interaction in different words, in different orders. Be clear, concise, and make sure there is no confusion as the people you meet in the hallway, at the coffee machine, at the break of a town hall, etc., will talk to each other about the new kid in town, which is you. Now we come to the third critical advice. This last one might surprise you, but it's critically important. It's about the bigger picture in your new company. Be aware of unintentional, or maybe sometimes not so unintentional, early political pitfalls. I'm bringing this up because I had to learn this the hard way. Look, in every company, actually in any environment where a number of people are working together, there are different approaches, opinions, agendas, networks, etc. And we will talk extensively about company politics and how to navigate that at a later stage. But here is an advice for the first, I would say, 1 to 4 weeks in your new organization while you are building your picture. Make sure you're not getting unintentionally involved in these things too early, for the best intent. There is an example what happened once to me, and I was in a new sales leadership position, and I was approached by someone who had a really good project at hand, which the person wanted to get funding for. The person reported to someone who reported to one of my direct reports. Guess what? Me being happy to be approached, to get my department understanding going and listen carefully, found the project really interesting. All honestly, it was a really good project. I heard the investment, the potential ROI. I knew based on my first numbers, the first numbers understanding I had of the department, that we had the money, and I agreed to it. So far so good, right? Great new boss, right? Well, not so fast. Turns out the person went behind the manager's back. Well, actually, not really. I would say was just cleverly preempting the conversation with the immediate manager, and then went back and basically said to his peers and managers, the new boss has already approved my project. Later, it turned out that with all good intentions being equal, the project was already discussed and postponed based on opportunity cost of a better project. So there was a bigger conversation about this project in another place. The person knew a little bit about it, knew it didn't look very good, and came to me. Great, right? So what's the learning? First interactions are not only an opportunity for you as a leader, but also for people in the company, in the department, to increase or build or rebuild their network of influence. You need to be aware of this. Now, I learned from that, and in another situation, in another country, we had to manage a quite, I would say, a pretty tough cultural clash based on a recent merger. And I got approached by a few folks who had some issues with the necessary transformational efforts. And they come with some ideas and wanted me to do something. And, I learned from that experience before, and I did not act or decide. I still listened. I listened carefully. I already somehow filtered the real intent, but I was still appreciative for the outreach. And then I walked away and I talked to my new direct team to discuss the matter. And that was the right thing to do. In the first situation, it was tough to roll back. In the second situation, that didn't even reach a level of concern. Always remember, new organizations are an opportunity for everyone if utilized correctly. Important thing is still to listen, to be appreciative, but then not to act too swiftly and think carefully about it in the greater picture you are building. You don't have to act within the first 2 weeks. In summary, let's look at it from the perspective of the universally valued leader characteristics, which have evolved over time. Among them is humbleness and vision. We've talked about this last time. Let these shine through. Based on these facts and based on the experience, in summary, these are for me the most critical things to do or not to do in your first, I would say, 1 to 4 weeks. 1, every interaction counts and is an opportunity. 2, have your story neat and tidy. And 3, make sure you're not getting involved in something you cannot stomach just yet. Get these right and you're off to a good start. Again, my F1 Formula 1 race analogy, you can't win in the first corner, but you can definitely lose it when you crash or experience significant damage. Good. That was it for today. And before we go, if you're interested in more, there's my book coming out in October. It has the same title as the podcast, The Mammoth in the Room. It offers a practical roadmap how great leaders and their teams embrace evolutionary truths for outstanding business results. And it does that in 3 chapters, in 3 sections, 1 on people, 2 on strategy, and 3 on implementation. And if you leave us your email, we can put you into a non-binding pre-order list. And if you would like to get the book for the e-version, we charge only $2.99 in the way up to the book launch. Thank you very much for your attention today. Very grateful that you listened, and I'm hopeful that I can welcome you back for episode 6, which will launch next week. Nicolas, The Mammoth in the Room.